So these are going to be my wish list for the Sony FX6. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information about the camera besides what they look like and this bird that's screaming right now. But hopefully we'll get some information soon. Before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Broke Boys Nation, people who watch these videos, even though they can't afford any of these cameras. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford this camera with, COVID going on. I'm barely working right now. I just had to shoot for a video game commercial, and that was like the first job I had in a while. Things are rough out there right now, so I just want to give a shout out to my broke boys. Alright, the first thing we're going to start out with, I hope this camera has proper USB-C support. So by USB-C, I mean multiple things. First of all, being able to charge your camera through USB-C adapters. One thing that I do love about the Sony A7 cameras is that you can just bring your, phone charger. Most newer phones nowadays use USB-C to charge, and literally you can just bring one charger. You can charge your phone, you can charge your camera, and you can even charge your Nintendo Switch or whatever. You can charge so many stuff with it, which is what I love. Because constantly bringing those, heavy, battery chargers and everything, and sometimes you need them if you want to charge multiple batteries at a time. But I think it would be great if you can just, charge our cameras through the USB-C. It just makes life a lot easier. Another thing I hope that we can do with this USB-C port is that we'll be able to record externally into a solid state drive. Because that way we can just record externally into a hard drive and then just unplug the hard drive, plug into the computer, and just edit right from there. It will make life a lot easier. And also, we don't know what kind of storage this camera is going to use. I'm assuming it's going to use the same storage technique that's used on the A7S III, where it's SD card, but it's also you can put CF Express cards at the same exact slot. And I hope that's it. But it would also be really nice if we can have a USB-C port where we can charge the camera and also do data transfers. The second thing is going to be proper stabilization. One of my biggest problems with the Sony FS5, even though I do love that camera, but a lot of times I will choose an A7 camera over that camera just because when you use the camera handheld, you can get better stabilization out of the A7 cameras because they do have inbuilt body stabilization. Now I heard that with the variable ND filter that Sony uses, you cannot use a stabilized sensor on it. But even if that's not the case, hopefully there will be either digital image stabilization or some sort of gyro stabilization where we can apply it in post like you can with the Sony FX9. Because again, this is more of a handheld camera. If you want a bigger camera where you're going to put on your shoulder, or even if you're going to put on a gimbal, from my experience, putting the Sony FS5 on a gimbal is very hard to do. First of all, you can't use the normal batteries that comes with it. You have to get these extra small batteries, or else it hits the gimbal. So personally, that's more of a handheld camera, so having proper, really good stabilization on that camera would be crucial, because with the Sony FS5, even though it is a handheld camera, that one also, the stabilization on it is not the best. Third thing is going to be the slow motion features, because with the Sony FS5 you get so many different slow mo features that I absolutely love, but the quality of them are pretty bad. You can do 1080p up to 240 FPS and that looks pretty good, but if once you start going past it, you go to 480, it drops down to 720p, which is still usable. But then when you go to 960p, it just becomes, just 360p. It looks terrible. So I hope they keep those features, but improve on them. With the newer camera, newer processor, we should be able to get a decent looking 960p frames per second. Again, that's a frame rate that you're rarely ever gonna use, but it would be cool to have actual usable files with those frame rates. Because with the FS5, you can do 960p, but it looks so bad that you wouldn't really use it on anything. So it's kind of it's just like a gimmick on there. But hopefully we will have usable 1080p 960p, because that would be amazing in my opinion. And for 4K, I only did 4K 30 FPS internally, and if you shot it externally though, it went up to 4K 120 frames per second. So I'm hoping it can do all of those internally this time. Which leads me to my final wish, which I don't think is going to happen because for some reason Sony never does this, which is internal RAW. Now, if you get a Blackmagic camera, which costs $1,500, or if you get the Blackmagic 6K, that was $2,500, you can do internal RAW with those cameras, and it looks great. So when Sony releases their Sony FX6, which is probably going to be priced around $6,000, I would say, it would be nice if it did internal RAW, so that we don't have to worry about external recorders in order to shoot RAW, or get, you know, ProRes RAW or any ProRes features pretty much. But for some reason, Sony just refused to do internal RAW. Even if you get their like $70,000 Sony Venice camera, you still have to shoot it externally. I don't know why, but that's just how Sony rolls for some reason. They like, you know, unlike Canon, I know Canon does like, you know, use their cripple hammer to cripple a lot of stuff. For some reason, Sony just refuses to put a lot of these features inside their camera, like time code and raw shooting internally. You usually have to like buy their like little mount that you put on the back, and then you can shoot it externally. Like, it's just ridiculous, you know. I think in 2020 you should be able to just shoot raw, especially there's other camera companies that are doing it. You know, for example, you can get a Canon R5, which is a photography camera that can shoot raw. So why can't Sony cinema line cameras be able to shoot internally raw, besides, you know, getting these big blocky, you know, external record centers do it. And things that if you get like Sony Venice or a Sony FX6, which are a bigger camera, then you're gonna rig that camera up and you're probably gonna have an external screen and everything. So for that stuff, I don't mind it as much. But when it comes to their Sony FS5 or their FX6 that's coming out, that's a smaller camera that's supposed to be, you know, just grab and go. So for those cameras, I think internal RAW would be very important because you don't really customize it that much. And even though I rigged out my Sony FS5, I still, you know, just, you know, I just want to have the minimum on that. I don't want to have an external recorder or an external screen on that. I just want to like just hold it in my hand, have it be light, and maybe possibly put it on a gimbal and get amazing quality out of that. But anyways guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what features do you want from the Sony FX6. And I'm very excited about that camera because even though I do love my Sony FS5, there are some features lacking from it, like the autofocus is pretty much unusable on it, and the internal colors on it are not the best. If you shoot an S-Log2, then you can grade it to look better, but the default colors are not the best, and it's only really a 1080p camera, so if you want to shoot 4K, it's not the best camera for that. But anyways guys, that's gonna be it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.